Bust alert! With Dumptember coming to an end, are the Moon Boys preparing to make Pumptober a true Baby Bulls wet dream? This chart says yes. Right now, the Baby Bulls are up a massive 2%, as a few massive things are happening on multiple charts, and this is what we've been waiting for. This is big. So let's take a look at a few things. First of all, it's important to note Bitcoin supply being held by long-term holders just reached its highest level ever, above 76.09%. People are not selling their Bitcoin. They're holding longer than ever. And this absolutely, in my opinion, will lead to the biggest bust, the biggest bull market of all time. Just one little thing that will. Also, Coinbase receives regulatory approval to offer perpetual futures to international retail customers. Further, going with what Coinbase said they were going to do is kind of just start looking to branch out. Coinbase has been insanely successful in the US, and unfortunately, Gary G. Spot and his, he actually doesn't really have that many supporters at the SEC either. Multiple commissioners of the SEC don't even agree with him. But anyway, he's basically taken it hostage and tried to cripple the crypto industry in the US, leading to gigantically successful companies like Coinbase branching out, right, leaving the US. Just killing innovation, right? Gary Gensler has got to go. Obviously, there is no debate with that. Eric Balchunas also mentioning that hearing the SEC wants to accelerate the launch of an Ethereum futures ETF because they want it off their plate before the government shutdown. So they've asked filers to update their docs by tomorrow, and so they can go effective basically Monday and trade Tuesday. This is not a spot ETF. Again, the SEC doesn't have any issue with approving futures ETFs because they know it won't really impact the underlying asset, Ethereum or Bitcoin. Yet there's no reason why they shouldn't. If they're approving, if they're approving futures ETFs, they should be approving spot ETFs. It's just complete bananas here. Mags the Scalping Pro, this is big. New all-time high in 2024. I personally think absolutely. But this is just a chart comparing previous two cycles here. How long did it take to set a new all-time high in the current cycle? Well, from the 2015 bottom, it took about 609 days. From the 2019 bottom, it took about 670 days. And we haven't done it yet in this cycle, so we can't say just yet. But looking at this chart, he's putting it roughly, in his opinion, he's saying about a year, 11 months or so. He thinks a lot longer than 600 days, actually kind of around between 670 to 730. But in the meantime, that does not mean that Bitcoin, won't slowly inch up over that time. And I might add that if a Bitcoin spot ETF is approved, I think that this will happen way sooner. He does say, in conclusion, if history repeats, Bitcoin could potentially surpass 69,000. Nice. In about a year. And like I said, I think that will happen despite a Bitcoin spot ETF approval. If a Bitcoin spot ETF approval does happen, which I think it will, it's a matter of when, not if, in my opinion, then yeah, those numbers could, okay, I guess I'll give my opinion. I think that if we actually saw a Bitcoin, let's say we would see it tomorrow, which we won't, but let's say we saw a Bitcoin spot ETF tomorrow. I think Bitcoin currently is at 27,000 roughly US dollars as I'm making the video. I think Bitcoin would immediately go to at least 34,000 US dollars if we actually got a real Bitcoin spot ETF approval. A lot of people do realize, if you don't understand what a Bitcoin spot ETF is, it is the single biggest thing that would ever have happened to Bitcoin, basically, if it was approved. It has been literally talked about since I first got into crypto like 7 years ago. It was like, back then it was some almost unimaginable, unobtainable fantasy. But over the last 12 months, we've seen it's not a fantasy. In fact, it's coming. It's coming very fast. It's just a matter pretty much of getting Gary Gensler out of the way. And legally, the courts are slowly doing even that. However, the guy's, he's not a good guy. He's not on the side of anyone. He's on the side of corruption only. He's one of the most corrupt people in government, and that's saying a lot because pretty much everyone is corrupt. But let's take a look at this. So the SPX today, we talked about this stock market, that the S&P 500 is right now holding right around just a very critical, hugely important level going all the way back about 2.5 years. right around the $4,300 level. Bitcoin as well is actually close to setting a bullish cross with the 21 going above the 50-day moving average here. If we maintain any sort of price action similar to what we've seen over the past couple of days, then we will get this cross in a couple of days. But it's also holding the 21-day moving average here, which it has been below ever since August 15th. So for the past about month and a half almost. But also the big level of resistance coming in is going to be around 28,000 if we can get up to there. That is huge. It's the 200-week moving average. We didn't quite go down even to the 50-week moving average recently on our latest dump, which is around 24,500. I guess depending on which exchange you look at, I believe BITGET did go that low, but I think that was like the only exchange that did. But also, we are seeing, and this is big, the DXY have its first decently big red candle since back on September 11th. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see if this is a sustained downside move for at least 1 or 2 weeks. But the DXY has been on a rampage now for well over 2 months, since the middle of July of this year. It's basically only gone straight up. There's just a handful of dumpy candles that immediately within the same week basically turned back around. So if the DXY does reverse at some point or just runs into some resistance, then yeah, the stock market and Bitcoin, which have been heavily beaten down over the past couple of weeks, can definitely see some upside gains here. If we take a look at some longer term charts for Bitcoin, let's see here. One thing to note as I'm looking through this is Bitcoin has held at a very key level, really not going much below 25,000, if at all, depending on what exchange you're looking at. So that's something to note, is that, I think it's this chart, like flipping this level, basically you can see we're flipping it, right? So after having massive resistance here the entire, for almost an entire year right here, now it's been about 6 or 7 months of ultimately finding bottoms here so far. The very middle of August into the middle of September, we were trading right in like the danger zone, right around 25. And holding this is very big. We haven't concretely done it just yet. But if it, basically, if you look at this chart and we do something even like this over the next couple of months as we go into the halving, ultimately that's a very successful resistance to support flip. Are we going to test it again? Are we just going to kind of even blow past that even sooner, well before 2023 even ends? That's possible. You guys see how big the pumps are when we actually see pumps. If we actually take a look, and this is roughly about a 45% move, about a 40% move. This is about a 20% move. From here, let's just say we get another 20% move. Again, putting us above basically the highs of the entire year with just another 20% move. Just one more little pump. Because again, the last 6 months, we've just pretty much been sideways ever since middle of March. And yeah, there's definitely some hope for the Bitcoin price action, because not only have we gotten beaten down for the past 2 years in a bear market, the shorter term price action over the past couple of months has also been pretty bad for Bitcoin. And things they don't go one direction forever. So on a wider context, if you zoom out, Bitcoin has so much room to run to the upside. But even on a short term time frame of just the last few weeks, it also is overdue for even a baby pump. Not anything like massive, but another retest of 30K, which ultimately I think is the biggest thing, the most important thing about the Bitcoin market at this point, is just more successful attempts at this obviously most important level, period, for Bitcoin. There's no debating this. The 30,000 level was the middle of this, all this price action from the highs at 69, nice, to the lows at 15. 30K is by far, it's where most support, most resistance was. It is so critical. And another retest of 30K, the thing is, eventually one of these retests is going to break 30K, and one of those retests will be the last time Bitcoin does see 30K. So really, if you're an investor or a trader, your goal essentially is to find the breakout or pick the breakout, trade the breakout that busts Bitcoin above 30K and never goes back below it again. Because it's a good short-term trade, it's a great mid-term trade, but it's also the best long-term trade. Looking at this chart on these zoomed out time frames, 30K is just absolutely massive. It's the new 10K. 10K of the last bear market was pretty big. And when we finally broke 10K, it was huge. I remember when we actually finally did break it, if we go back here, it took a lot of attempts, honestly. You can see this. We had a break here at all the way to 14, got rejected at 10K, got rejected at 10K again, got rejected at 10K again here. But then we ultimately had the bust right here in August of 2020, got a retest of 10K where people were thinking, oh, we're just going to go right back below it like we did the last like 5 times. But then you see what happened. We just went straight up. And that was the juiciest part of the bull market. And what do you notice about this as well? October 20th to February 20th, about a 4-month window where 90% of the gains happened, right? This was the biggest trade of the last bull market, not this secondary pump, not these dumps. This was the trade of a bear market, obviously, just straight down. But this straight up 4-month period, October 2020 to February 2021, was for Bitcoin. Altcoins had a little bit of a time frame of when they pumped. There's so many altcoins, so you can't say, you can't classify everything in one move. But for Bitcoin, that 4-month period is where everything happened. And if you're an investor here, if you're trading, that 4-month, however long it is in the future, it's going to be short. It might be a little longer than 4 months. It might be a little shorter. If a Bitcoin spot ETF is approved, it could be way longer. But your goal is to catch this, the next coming of this, right? And the thing is, if you look at this chart, it's pretty clear to see it can come kind of out of nowhere. You walk away for a couple weeks and you could have missed, depending on how much you're invested, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of gains. If you take your eye off the market just like that. And take advantage of massive deposit and sign up bonuses with BitGet and Femex if you're interested below. If you sign up, it takes 30 seconds with either of my links. You get massive bonuses. And if you trade with Femex below, signing up with my link, you also earn free XPT when you trade anything. Without further ado,